Welcome to what is probably the worst drawn archaeology documentary ever made. We're covering three ancient mysteries today. The Nazca Lines, giant desert drawings visible only from the sky, the Piri Reis Map, a 500-year-old chart, and the Phaistos Disc, a clay tablet no one can read. The Nazca hummingbird is over 300 feet long, carved into the desert with such precision it's only visible from the air. Our drawing is considerably less precise. The Piri Reis Map of 1513. Some claim it shows Antarctica without ice, most scholars disagree strongly. We'll get to why. And the Phaistos Disc, a 4,000-year-old clay tablet with stamped symbols no one has ever read. Our version uses punctuation marks. It's the best we could do. Who made them? Why were they made? And will we ever really know? Let's find out, or at least draw them really badly while we try. The Nazca Desert lies on a high arid plateau in southern Peru, 280 square miles of flat, stony terrain between the Pacific Ocean and the Andes Mountains. The lines form 70 extraordinary animal and plant figures, a hummingbird, a monkey, a spider, and a pelican stretching over 900 feet from beak to tail. The famous astronaut figure is one of the rare human-like glyphs, a 105-foot figure discovered by a pilot as recently as 1982. How the lines were made is actually no great mystery. The dark iron oxide stones on the surface were simply removed to expose the lighter soil underneath. That's the whole technique. Straight lines were created by aligning two wooden stakes by eye, using them to guide a third and repeating until the desired length was achieved. No aliens required. Complex figures were likely created using a grid system, making a small drawing, dividing it into squares, then recreating each square at enormous scale, a technique still used by artists today. Modern experiments proved a spiral glyph could be created in just over an hour using only poles and string, and the enormous Great Rectangle in about 2 months by just 100 workers. German mathematician Maria Riesch devoted 50 years to studying the Nazca Lines, living in the desert, measuring every line by hand. A genuine legend, even if her astronomical theory turned out to be wrong. In 1968, astronomer Gerald Hawkins fed the positions of the Nazca Lines into a computer. The result? Only random chance level of astronomical alignments. The observatory theory was dead. Erich von Daniken's 1968 bestseller claimed the lines were an alien landing strip, ignoring the basic problem that the soft clay soil would swallow any heavy spacecraft on contact. Just south of the lines lies Kawachi, a 370-acre ceremonial city where thousands of pilgrims gathered for rituals probably connected to the desert glyphs. The best theory: the lines were sacred pathways walked by priests in rain ceremonies, and perhaps by shamans on a voyage of the soul, connecting with animal spirits in mystical flight. The Nazca Lines, built by human hands for human rituals. No aliens, no lost technology, just ingenuity and spiritual need. Now let's cross the Atlantic to Turkey. In 1929, historians at Topkapi Palace in Istanbul found something extraordinary in a pile of rubble, a 1513 map drawn on gazelle skin showing the Americas. The map was drawn by Piri Reis, an Ottoman admiral, a portolan chart of the type used in the 14th to 16th centuries for navigating from port to port. In 1966, Charles Hapgood dropped a bombshell. He claimed the southern landmass was Antarctica, mapped without ice by a lost ancient civilization thousands of years before its official discovery. The idea spread. Graham Hancock proposed a lost super-civilization. Von Daniken proposed aliens. Everyone had a theory. Nobody had evidence. The problems pile up fast. North America is terribly inaccurate. The Drake Passage is completely missing. Rees's own notes mention hot weather, not exactly Antarctic conditions. Modern geology shows Antarctica was last ice-free more than 14 million years ago, not 6,000 years. Hapgood was only off by about 13,994,000 years. The most damning evidence? Piri Reis wrote his sources directly on the map. He used Columbus's maps, Portuguese accounts, and medieval European charts. He literally told us, in writing, on the map. The Antarctica on the map is actually the medieval Great Southern Continent. A cartographic tradition dating back to Ptolemy. It's not a mystery, it's just how medieval maps worked. The Piri Reis Map, not evidence of aliens or Atlantis, but a beautiful 16th century document that shows us how people in 1513 understood their world. Now to Crete. In 1903, Italian archaeologists digging in the Minoan Palace at Phaistos, Crete, pulled a small clay disc from a basement room, and a century of confusion began. The disc contains 242 impressions of 45 different symbols, stamped into wet clay with wooden or ivory seals, the earliest known form of printing anywhere in the world. The artisan worked right to left. We can tell because symbols sometimes overlap to the right, pressing each stamp into wet clay, creating a message that would outlast their entire culture. The fundamental problem: no other examples of this script exist anywhere in the world. Translating it is like trying to learn an entire language from a single tweet, with no dictionary. Translations have included a king's funeral, a geometric theorem, an astronomical calendar, a sacred hymn, a farmer's almanac, and a board game. None accepted. The disc has become a Rorschach test. An uncomfortable possibility. Could it be a modern forgery? No other stamped objects have ever been found, and Greek authorities refused to allow the dating test that could settle the question definitively. 4,000 years. A message pressed into clay by hands that turned to dust millennia ago, and no one can read it. 3 ancient mysteries, drawn about as badly as possible. But despite the art, we actually covered some real ground here. First, ancient people were brilliant. The Nazca created 300 geoglyphs visible only from the sky, without being able to see them from the sky. That's not primitive, that's genius. Second, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. The Piri Reis Map doesn't show Antarctica, and that's fine. It's a beautiful 16th century document. Sometimes a map is just a map. And third, some mysteries are meant to endure. The Phaistos Disc is a 4,000-year-old message we cannot read, and maybe that's its real gift. A reminder that the past is bigger and stranger than we'll ever fully understand. Thanks for sticking with us through this artistic catastrophe. Subscribe for more mysteries, which we promise to draw only marginally better. Tell us in the comments, which of these 3 fascinates you most?